Hello there, and welcome to another episode of how should I call this? Blender tutorials for creating a board game layout. I need to find a catchier name for this series. But anyway, today we're gonna make a whole pile of tokens. These tokens are from a game called Maximum Apocalypse, which we finished the video for it about a few weeks ago. It's right now on Kickstarter. Really cool game. Zombies, monsters, apocalypse. Check it out. But these are the nice monster tokens that appear whenever a monster appears, basically. And we're going to learn how to make these tokens and also how to pile them up so neatly. So let's get started. And if you're not familiar with Blender at all, I recommend you start at my first video in the playlist where I cover the basics of Blender, movement, and navigation. And we also create a board game box. Last episode we created, is it right? I think I can call them episodes. So a lot of Star Wars references here. In the previous episode, we created cards and a deck of cards, and the most logical next step is creating tokens. So we're going to start with just circular tokens, which I think are the most common. But then we should go into like interesting shapes, but we won't cover it this time. I realize that's just too much for one tutorial, so we'll just start with this and we'll continue from there. Okay, today the cube will not survive. Delete the cube. I need to turn on my keystrokes things. Okay, that's good. So you can see what I'm doing. Alright. I will continue to keep giving like beginners tips throughout because I'm aware that a lot of people that are watching this haven't touched Blender before, so it might be confusing, especially in this video where I'm going to get into some complex physics stuff. So I'll try to do it slow, but I do want to make these as short as possible. So let's just go through it without me babbling on. Create a cylinder. This is what we want. This is the basic shape that would fit a circular token. Now we want to make it the real dimensions. So what happened here? Yeah. Okay, just for this menu you can also press N. Okay, it just pops it out. And for this menu on this side you can press T. Okay, that's just two very useful keys that help you clear up your workspace and pop it out again when you need it. So our token is 40 by 40 millimeters. So you can press Alt and then select two, like this, and then do them at the same time. That helps. That was Hebrew. We want English. Yay! And the thickness of it, I think, is just 4 millimeters. We'll go with that. Obviously, each game with its own specification. Okay, now before we go into textures and everything, we want to make this pretty and look nice and smooth because right now it's very jagged and janky. One way to do it usually is just by going to Shade Smooth, but this comes out all wrong. Something here is just not right. The other way to do it, and I'll have to create another one for this, just to show you what I mean, okay, is creating more vertices, and you just can crank that way high, but that makes everything very heavy, very complicated and unnecessary. So let's find a different way, and a different way to do this would be with modifiers. Okay, so this is a technique I found off a tutorial. Go to modifiers, add edge split modifier, and then add another one and a subdivision surface. Now that we have these, try to go to Shade Smooth again, and this time it will keep that hard edge along the line, but the side will look really smooth, which is really good because that's what we need for the token. Keep those modifiers, do not apply them, do not change the, yeah, that's fun. Do not change the order of them, just keep them like that and everything should be fine. Okay, now let's give this token some materials. go to your materials, add a new material, call it token. Oh, right, before we forget, call your cylinder, call it token. Always important to name things, and you know, we'll take this one step further when we'll start putting things into folders. You'll see why soon. So to put this in a folder just like this collection, you need to click M, new collection, and name it tokens. This will automatically create a new folder and put the token inside. And that's really important because when things suddenly get messy and you have all these different components, it's much easier to navigate and find what you need if you need to change it or move it or select it, whatever. Okay, so token, first of all, same way as we did the box and the cards, just go to image texture, open, navigate to your, where did I put it? Navigate to your icon. Okay, choose the monster, and let's go to look dev. Alright, so it tried to project it, but it didn't work. Why? Because we're not using the right coordinates. So if we go over here to vector, we'll choose generated, it should work. This is similar to what we did in the first box tutorial, where we added all the nodes and put it on generated. Okay, you don't need to add a mapping node right now because we're not really playing with that. Okay, go back to layout. Now, as you can see, this looks nice, but it looks like a plastic token, and we want to make a cardboard token. Cardboard tokens have this nice cardboard layer on the side. So let's try creating that. Go to edit mode, okay, clicking tab or here. Add a new material, and let's call this cardboard side. And now we need to select just the side here. Okay, make sure you go to face select. Another here, I'm going to throw in another shortcut for you. 1, 2, 3. The regular 1, 2, 3, not on the number pad, we'll switch between those different selection modes. So we want face select, deselect everything, and click holding Alt, click on one of those lines, and it will select this whole loop around it. Assign the material to the loop. Okay, and now let's create this material. Go to shading. Number pad period to zoom in, or if you're in a laptop, you go to view and frame selected, and go to your materials, choose the cardboard side, and now we need to create this material. And what we're going to do is going to create a procedural, I hope I'm saying that correctly, I only read the word, procedural texture, meaning we won't be using an image for this, but rather we're going to create it with Blender and all the Blender textures that you can use. And this is a whole box of fun stuff. If we go to, just like here when you wanted to add like new geometry with Shift A, so if you press Shift A here, you get all the different nodes you can use. So we're gonna go to texture, and here we have all bunch of really fun textures. We have bricks, checker, environment, gradient, image is the one we used until now, noise, Voronoi, which is a fun one, and wave. We are going to use the brick texture because that gives us a nice, you'll see. What it does basically is create a layer of bricks, which is nice. So the best way to do this, or anything when you model or texture something, is to look for a point of reference. Now I have here tokens on the table in front of me. I haven't set up a camera rig yet, but I might do that in the future. But for now, let's just go to Google. So I skip forwards just so we can see a nice reference. I have no idea what game this is from, but we could really see here clearly the sides of the token. Okay, we have these layers, and from time to time we have this break, this the part where you rip it off of the insert, punch board, yeah. part where you rip it off the punch board. So we're going to simulate this as close as possible, okay? Because remember, we still are seeing it not that close, but we'll do what we can. So let's see what we can do. This is a really good reference. We can see here that the token sides have these layers, these cardboard layers one on top of another, and that we also have this sort of white line where you punch it out of the punch board. So let's try to simulate both of these. Okay, so right now this brick texture will be the layers. So first of all, they're the wrong side. We need to have them horizontal and not vertical. To do that, we need to add a mapping layer, a mapping node. Connect the vector to the vector and a texture coordinate. All right, so now we want to turn it 90 degrees. So let's take the X factor and just press 90. That already doesn't look bad. Okay, that's a good start. Now we can play around with these, with the brick texture settings. Let me just give it some more room here. First of all, I don't want this black to be here, so let's choose a different color. Let's make it like lighter, because we're going to be showing the sides afterwards. And I think that's a little bit too many layers, so I think something around this. Motor size is like those images in the middle, so we don't want them so big. Something like that, and make them just a little bit smoother. And you know, again, this is not something I remember by heart. Every time I do this, I just play around with the settings till I have something which I like. So feel free to do it yourself. Okay, I don't even remember what most of the settings do. I play around with it until I see something I like. So you can really see how we're controlling the height and the width. So I actually want, yeah, something like that. Maybe make this color a little darker, and maybe give it some yellow tinge. What do you say? And also this, just a little bit of a yellow tinge. We want actually the motor to be white, because that's how those parts look like. Okay, I'm pleased with this. This looks fine. Sorry that I didn't really describe every single thing I did, but it's intuitive. You play around with it till you find what you like. You know, just don't forget to play with, find out what all the settings do, play around with them, see what you like, what you don't like. You can get really interesting results. Yeah, that doesn't look bad, but the thing is with cardboard, right now it just looks completely smooth around the edges, and we know that the cardboard is a little bit jagged. Now, we could do two things. One is change the renderer to cycles, and then that gives us a whole new range of possibilities, including creating a displacement, which would literally make the geometry stick out. I prefer to stay with Eevee, and I'm not going to go into too much details about this, but Eevee is the real-time renderer. It's easier to use, it's faster. You just need to play around with the settings to get what you want. So I'm going to create a normal map. Normal map basically simulates how things would look like if they were sticking out and the light hits them. Okay, that it's very, you know, just trying to explain this in the simplest ways possible. If you see like tiles or something like that, the way that you know, let's play around with it and then you'll see what I mean. We want to add here Voronoi texture, just to show what it looks like. Okay, I'm just going to create a plane here. A Voronoi texture looks like that. Okay, so it looks like a beautiful colorful window, and if you take off the randomness, it turns into squares. You can control the scale. It looks really trippy. That's fun. Okay, why do we want to use this? Because this will help simulate the unevenness of the cardboard. So we want to add, put this up a little, add a normal map, put it here, connect the normal to the normal, and connect the position here. This is just from playing around with the settings. I chose F2. I honestly don't know what all that means. Here, just play around with the settings a little. That's my scale. I want just a little bit randomness. Okay, and one more thing is we need to add a bump node and place it here between the normal map and the main, the principal BSDF, and this time take the distance and connect it to the height. Okay, and yeah, now you see it really gives this janky feeling where it's like not even, and gives it just more realistic feeling to it. You can work here with the strength, see just how much you want to put. Let's see. Distance 0.5. Okay. Yeah, I'm liking this. Let's destroy this window. That looks pretty good. I think that's actually much better than the test version I did. Okay, I think we have our token. We have both sides, we have the cardboard. Now, there is another step which I will get to in another tutorial because it's a very cool step that took me a very, very long time to figure out. And that's creating the Lennon texture. Okay, right now we have a nice and smooth texture which we can obviously make also shinier. This, if you remember from the card tutorial, you go to the token texture, not the cardboard. Cardboard should stay with this type of roughness. Go to the token texture and just take the roughness down to 2.5. Okay, that makes it a little shinier, which is nice with renders. We could add a Lennon texture, and that gives it a very realistic look, but I'm gonna save that and save the suspense for another tutorial. We'll stay with that for now. Let's say this is a far away render, we won't be able to see the Lennon texture anyways, and let's just go ahead and make a pile. Okay, so now go back to layout mode. Let's start by framing our camera. So I pressed numpad 0 to see camera view. I will give another tip. Let's go back actually to the token. Select the token, period, go back to the token. And here's another shortcut. It's Control Alt numpad 0. And this will automatically frame your scene on where you're looking at. You can also you could also do this through view, what was it? Align view, align active camera to view. That's what I did. You see Control Alt numpad 0. But that's just a very easy way to select your frame. Okay, go to flyby view by Shift and tittle, which is left to the number 1, to title. I don't know how to say that. Okay, I've been getting comments about pronouncing the name of that key wrong. I'm gonna call it tittle, and that would be my official way of calling it. It's that little squiggly line next to number 1. Okay, sorry, I'm babbling along a lot this time. Okay, so we want to create a pile of tokens. First of all, we should do the same thing that we did with the cards, and that's create an array. Put it above the other modifiers so it doesn't screw up with them. 0 on factor X, 1 on factor Z, and let's add, let's say, 20 tokens. That sounds good. Now we are going to, I'm just going to center the view here, actually use physics to make them spread apart nicely. You can technically just Shift D, duplicate, 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 and rotate a little, and you know, manually create a whole pile of tokens. But if you have like 20 tokens and I don't know, 50 tokens, whatever, I think this method works better, and it looks a lot more natural because you're using actual physics, you know, Blender physics, which are crazy. So let's go back here, and we have our 20 tokens. We want to have it a little bit more than just 1 point on the Z factor, because we want to have them a little spread out, so when they fall, they'll fall in a nice way. Okay, now apply, go to edit mode, P, separate by loose parts. Okay, and this is where having collections is very important, because then it's all saved inside here. Click out of edit mode, and now we want to add some physics. Everything is ready for a simulation. First of all, for physics we need a floor, so go to mesh and add a plane. That's big enough, I think. You could also give it a material and just make it pure white or black, whatever you want. We're gonna make it white. And if you want to avoid clicking it all the time, every time you want to move the tokens, you'll move everything. So to stop clicking it, you can go up here to this filter, click this arrow button, and then toggle it off here. And that means it's unselectable, you can't select it. That's a very useful tool. It took me a while to figure it out. Same thing goes with the camera. You want to stop grabbing the camera, so you can go up here, and objects visibility and selectability, you turn off camera. And that way the camera stays locked, you can't click it, and then you can just go ahead and work with everything you got. Okay, let's get into physics. This is the fun part. Physics is over here. Okay, physics properties, this sort of orbiting moon around the sun, and you want to turn on rigid body. Now, when you will do it, it will only do it to this top token over here, because you see it has a different color selection than all the other tokens. The other tokens are the dark orange, and that's light orange. Let's bring everything up. G, Z, to put it up a little. So right now, this is the only one that has physics. Soon we will apply to all the rest. So we want active, because we want them to move. Now you go to Object, Rigid Body, and Copy from Active. And now all of them will have the same settings. Go to the plane. Now we need to reactivate it, so we can select it, or just click it over here. And also click Rigid Body, but instead of active, we want it passive. We don't want it to move, we just want it to be there, and we want the tokens to react to it. Otherwise, everything would just fall down into infinity. Okay, technically everything should be ready. So if you click space, wow! That was fun. But this is not the spread that we want. And now comes a part which you just have to play with it. Okay, so just start moving things around. Let's move this pile over here. Maybe move these tokens over here. And see what happens. Okay, now you see that they're a little slidey, so we can fix that by selecting all of them, selecting one in particular to be the active one, and then down here at surface response we can put the friction all the way up to the top, and that way they won't slide as much. And bounciness, I don't think we want to touch that. Don't forget to go to Object, Rigid Body, and Copy from Active, so it will apply to all of them. Let's see what happens. Okay, that's not very good. So let's try to put them closer together. Move this a little here, a little bit there, and you see there's no rules. They're just playing around with it. That's what Blender is, till you get the right thing that you want. And you know, I could do this sometimes for ages till I find the precise physics simulation that I like. Okay, so that's better. What we need to do basically is choose a freeze frame of the right spread that we want. Okay, so I think let's try it again. Move it a little bit. Here, one more time. Okay, that's better. That's better. And we will be able to edit this. Okay, stop that and remember the frame number. This is frame 54. So how do we do that? We need to select all the tokens. Make sure they're all selected. Go to Object, Rigid Body, and Baked Keyframes. Note the frame you're on. We're on frame 54. Make sure you only bake that frame. There we go. Now technically you can just delete this keyframe, you don't need it anymore, but that's it. Everything now is frozen in this place. Next thing you want to do, since you see all these tiny dots, these are the origin points, and they're based on the original position of the token. We want it to be at the center, so just select all your tokens, right click, set origin to geometry. And now when we move things about, it will move in the way we expect it. So let's clump them together a little. I chose these 5 tokens and R, Z, rotate it, G, X, move it a little bit closer. You don't want them to be stuck inside each other, so I'm just going in, making very, very minor adjustments. Important thing is that the final version just looks good. So I'm going to choose like one token that will be seen very clearly. I have it like on top of a pile. Okay, that looks pretty good. So obviously it's not perfect. We still need to do a lot of things like add shadows, lightings, and all these render effects, which I'll get to in a later video. But this is what I wanted to teach for now, how to create the token, how to create the pile using physics. And we will get into different sizes of tokens in future videos and into the full setup, I hope real soon. Hope you enjoyed it. Please share, like, and subscribe. Sound off in the comments if you have any sort of questions, not about only this video, but any other video or any general question you might have on Blender. And let me know what you would want to see next. Next thing I think should be custom tokens which aren't necessarily either round or square, and that's a whole different issue which took me a while to figure out how to find a fast way to do it. Thank you very much, and go back Maximum Apocalypse. It's now on Kickstarter, and if you missed it, I'm sure there will be a late pledge. It's a really cool game and I love the video we made for it. It has zombies.